In the Onyx Keep, where night is eternal and the sun is a half-forgotten myth, Queen Rose remembers. For 6 weeks she has prepared in secret, weaving garlands of evergreen and sun petals, the dried flowers that hold the memory of light. Tonight is the winter solstice. Tonight she will bring the festival of first light to this kingdom of endless shadow. The door to her chambers opens silently. She doesn't hear him until his shadow falls across her work. Your Majesty. I didn't hear you enter. That is generally the point. You've pricked your finger. He kneels, an impossibly slow unfolding of long limbs until his twilight gray eyes are level with her hands. A single bead of blood wells on her fingertip, bright and impossibly alive against her pale skin. This is a great deal of effort. It's for the solstice. In my home, we call it the Festival of First Light. We celebrate the return of the sun. He reaches out, not to her, but to the garland. His pale fingers brush against the brittle texture of a sun petal, and for a moment, something flickers in his ancient eyes. The sun does not return here, Rose. No, but light can be remembered. And hope, I think, is not dependent on the sun. She waits for the cutting remark, the sardonic twist of his lips. It never comes. He simply watches her, his stillness a heavy presence in the small room. Then he rises and is gone, leaving behind a silence that feels, for once, like possibility. The great hall of the Onyx Keep is a masterpiece of intimidation. Its vaulted ceilings swallow light, its obsidian walls reflect candle flames in distorted shapes. But tonight, deep green garlands slash against the dead black stone, and impossible yellow sun petals burn like captured fireflies. Rose stands near her largest creation, the garland draped over the cold hearth, her cream-colored gown a ghost against the gloom. The nobles arrive like a tide of exquisite decay, their silks the color of bruises and old blood. Lady Seraphina lets her fingers trail over a garland, her lips curling in a faint, pitying smile. Lord Marcus stops beside a pillar and sniffs the air with theatrical disdain. Quaint, the little queen has brought her peasant smells into the palace. Their laughter shatters like thin ice. Rose feels it in her teeth, in her bones. Then the air shifts, temperature dropping, silence intensifying. Casimir is entering. The nobles turn as one, a flock of elegant predators turning toward their alpha. His black coat is unadorned, the severity of it making their opulence seem garish. His eyes sweep the hall and fall upon her work. She watches, breath caught, as his gaze lingers on the garland over the hearth. He sees it. He remembers. The silence stretches, becoming a weight. The court watches him, their ancient eyes alight with challenge. Lord Marcus takes a half step forward. Your Majesty. An interesting choice of decoration, so rustic. A touch of the mortal world to remind us of fleeting, fragile things. The hall holds its breath. Rose's hands clench in the fabric of her gown. Say something, she pleads silently. You don't have to like it. Just don't let them cheapen it. She sees the muscles in Casimir's jaw tighten. For a heartbeat, she thinks he will. Then he smiles. It is not a real smile. It is a sharp, predatory baring of teeth. He moves toward the hearth, soundless on the stone floor. The nobles part for him. He stops before her garland and reaches up. His long, pale fingers close around a single, perfect sun petal. He plucks it free. The small, dry sound is unnaturally loud. Lord Marcus is right. It is quaint. He holds the flower up between thumb and forefinger, displaying it for them all. A human tradition, my queen informs me. They believe these dried weeds can call back the light. A charming superstition, like children who believe that if they wish hard enough, the monsters will not find them in the dark. Low, appreciative laughter ripples through the assembled nobles. A cascade of sharp, brittle sounds. Rose feels each one like a blow. Casimir looks at the flower one last time. But we know the truth, don't we? The dark is not something to be frightened of. It is where we thrive. And then, with final, contemptuous precision, he crushes it. The golden dust of the sun petals scatters into nothingness on the polished black floor. The laughter swells, louder, triumphant. Across the hall, his eyes meet hers for one terrible moment. She sees the triumph there, the choice made. Then she turns and walks away through the servants' passage. No one notices. No one is looking for her. She is the ghost she has always been. The walk back to her chambers is a journey through a dead world. When she reaches her rooms, her ladies-in-waiting bow their heads, their eyes downcast. They know. Of course they know. Leave me. Her voice is a croak, a dry rustle. They scurry away. Alone. She stands in the center of her sitting room, the room where he had found her weaving, where hope had briefly taken root. A single overlooked sun petal lies on a side table. She picks it up. Dried weeds, his voice echoes. Like children who believe that if they wish hard enough. The blankness in her mind fractures, and pain rushes in. She sinks to the floor, her gown pooling around her. She does not cry. The cold inside her is too deep for tears. After a long time, she rises. Her purpose is clear. She will erase every trace of her foolishness. She takes the small circlet of evergreen and sun petals she had planned to wear and drops it into the fire. The pine needles hiss and catch. The yellow flowers blacken and vanish. She feeds the flames with all her remembered sunlight, all her quiet prayers, all her ridiculous hope. Then she begins on the room itself. The tapestry from her homeland is folded and placed in a cedar chest. The carved wooden songbird follows, the books of poetry. One by one, she packs away every piece of herself. When she is finished, the room is as Spartan as a cell, honest, empty. She chooses a dress of severe gray silk and looks at herself in the mirror. The woman who stares back is a stranger. There is no light in her eyes. This is the queen they wanted. A silent, beautiful, empty thing. I can be that. It's so much easier than being alive. 2 weeks pass like a slow bleed. Rose becomes the perfect queen, a study in serene emptiness. She presides over household accounts with quiet efficiency. She walks the cold corridors with her spine straight, a silver-gray ghost. Her chambers remain Spartan, a cell of her own design. She eats alone. The silence is no longer a shield, it is her skin. Casimir sees her, of course. He sees her across formal receptions, a pale statue in a sea of dark silks. He passes her in galleries, and she inclines her head with perfect remote courtesy, her eyes sliding past his, as if he were just another part of the architecture. The chasm between them is absolute, a void of unspoken words and his own monumental regret. He tries. One night, she returns to find a necklace on her pillow, a cascade of black diamonds held by platinum thread. A king's gift, opulent and utterly cold. A statement of her value as his possession. She leaves it where it lay. The next morning, a servant removes it. It is never mentioned. Another time, he finds her in the library, reading a heavy tome bound in ancient leather. I had hoped you might find the histories of the first families of some interest. She does not look up. I find them very illuminating, Your Majesty. They are an excellent study in the art of survival. She turns a page. The gesture is final, a door closing. He stands there for another long moment, a king rendered supplicant by a wall of polite indifference, before turning and retreating. Unseen by him, Rose has found a new secret. In the most neglected part of the palace grounds lie glass houses, their panes clouded with the grime of centuries. In one, a single stubborn plant has survived. A winter rose, a tough, thorny bush that produces, even in the deepest cold, a few blossoms of delicate shell-pink hue. It lives on the weak gray light that filters through the dirty glass. This becomes her sanctuary. She cleans the glass, pane by painstaking pane. She clears weeds, she brings water. She speaks to it, her voice soft in the quiet air, telling it stories of the sun. This single living thing is the only thing she tends now. This hope is different. It is not for him or for them. It is a tiny, fierce, private rebellion. A promise that even in the deepest winter, something can still choose to bloom. The letter arrives with the seal of Duke Anton of the Northern Marches. It announces his impending arrival. He is a rival, a threat, coming to assess the strength of Casimir's kingdom, to search for cracks. The largest, most visible crack is the king's human queen. Casimir reads the letter in his solar, the gray light doing little to warm the cold stone. He needs to project perfect unity. The court's whispers have been silenced. But the chill between him and Rose is a tangible thing, a political liability. Anton is no fool. He will see the void and interpret it, correctly, as weakness. He finds her in the library. She sits at a heavy oak table, her posture unyielding. A single candle burns beside her. She looks up as he approaches, her expression one of weary expectation. Your Majesty. She does not rise. Rose. I have received word. Duke Anton of the Northern Marches will be arriving in 3 days. He will be our guest for a week. I will ensure the guest wing is prepared. That is not all I require. Anton is observant. He comes here to measure my strength. A king's strength is often measured by the stability of his household. He will be watching us. Together. A flicker of something passes through her eyes. And what is it you wish him to see, my king? Unity, strength, a partnership. She closes her book, the soft thud echoing. You wish for me to act the part of a contented wife, to smile and defer to you, and give the impression of a harmonious union. I ask for your cooperation. It is a matter of state security. I am aware of my duties, Your Majesty. I am your queen. My purpose is to be a symbol of your treaty with my people, and an asset to your reign. I will not fail in that purpose. You will have your performance. The terms of our arrangement are, as always, perfectly clear. Arrangement. The word is a slap. Very well. There will be a state dinner on the night of his arrival. I expect you to be seated at my right hand. Of course. Is that all? He has been dismissed. The king of the night, dismissed by the quiet finality in his human queen's voice. That is all. He turns and walks away, the sound of his own receding footsteps a rhythm of defeat. He has his political asset, the perfect, beautiful, empty queen he inadvertently created. And he has never felt more impoverished. The night of the state dinner arrives, cold and clear. The great hall is set for a display of power. Rose is a vision carved from ice and moonlight. She wears silver silk that shimmers like a frozen waterfall, her dark hair upswept and held with combs of polished jet. Around her throat she wears the necklace, the black diamonds. It lies against her pale skin not as an adornment, but as a collar, a glittering symbol of her station. When Casimir sees her, a strange, painful knot tightens in his chest. She is breathtaking and utterly untouchable. Duke Anton is a bear of a man, his size barely contained by his fine black wools. His eyes are small, bright, and miss nothing. Queen Rose, the Northlands sing songs of your beauty, but they do not do you justice. You are too kind, Duke Anton. Welcome to the Onyx Keep. Her voice is flawless, warm enough to be gracious, cool enough to be regal. The dinner is an intricate ballet. Duke Anton probes, testing for weaknesses. Casimir deflects, projecting absolute control. Rose is his silent partner in the deception. She listens attentively. When addressed, she answers with intelligent, diplomatic grace. To any observer, they are the image of a perfect royal couple. Only Casimir can feel the Arctic chill that separates them, a gulf as wide as the table. Lord Marcus sits halfway down, his face a mask of simmering resentment. He leans forward, his voice carrying. Our queen seems to have adapted so well to our ways. One would almost forget she comes from a world of sunlight and soil. So much healthier, I imagine, than our diet of preserved vintages. The insult is subtle but clear. He is reminding everyone of her fragile humanity, her otherness, and referencing the blood they consume with a delicate euphemism that highlights her exclusion. The table falls silent. Every eye turns to Casimir. Duke Anton's gaze is particularly sharp. Rose's serene expression does not change, but her hands clench in her lap. Casimir feels the weight of their expectations, the same pressure as before. He could laugh it off, it would be politically safe. But as he looks at Rose's pale, proud face, at the black diamonds glittering coldly at her throat, something inside him snaps. He turns his head slowly, his twilight gaze fixing on Marcus. When he speaks, his voice is quiet, conversational, and colder than the grave. Lord Marcus, I find your concern for my wife's health touching, but you are mistaken. The Queen does not merely adapt, she illuminates. And you would do well to remember that her health, her comfort, and her honor are as vital to this kingdom as my own. Any who would seek to diminish them will be answering directly to me. Is that understood? Marcus pales, color draining until his skin is the color of old parchment. Of course, Your Majesty. A poor choice of words. My apologies to the Queen. Casimir does not acknowledge the apology. He turns back to Duke Anton as if nothing has happened. You were telling me of the ice wolf packs in the north, Duke? The conversation resumes, but the power dynamic has shifted. He has drawn a line in the stone, not for political gain, but for her. He risks a glance at Rose. She is staring at her plate, but he sees the slight tremor in her hand as she reaches for her water goblet. For the first time in weeks, a crack has appeared in her perfect, icy composure. Later that night, humiliation festers in Marcus. The public rebuke in front of a foreign rival is unforgivable. The human queen is not a passing fancy, but a true contamination. He cannot challenge Casimir directly, that would be suicide. But he can expose the weakness. His spies have told him of her secret, the glass house, the pathetic clinging to a single living plant. It is the perfect symbol of her impurity, her refusal to let go of her mortal world. He gathers a small group of loyal nobles, including Duke Anton. He whispers of contamination within the palace walls that must be investigated for the good of the kingdom. He leads them through cold, dark gardens, a small mob moving with righteous purpose. When they reach the glass house, the grimy panes glow with soft, steady light from within. And standing before the rusted iron door, a silhouette against the light, is the king. Casimir is not dressed for court. He wears simple black trousers and a loose tunic. He is not waiting for a fight. He is simply waiting for them. Lord Marcus, a late-night stroll? Your Majesty, we were concerned. There were reports of strange activity in this part of the grounds. We feared an intruder. There is no intruder, only my wife. As if on cue, the door opens. Rose stands there, framed in the doorway, a small trowel in one hand, a smudge of dark earth on her cheek. She wears a simple cloak over her dress. Her eyes meet Casimir's, wide with confusion. And I am with her. He steps aside, revealing the interior. It is a small, warm, humid space, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and something green and alive. In the center, under clean glass, the winter rosebush thrives. On its thorny branches are 3 perfect shell-pink blossoms, unfurled in defiance of the eternal night. Casimir walks into the glass house, his movements full of strange reverence. He stops before the rose bush. The nobles watch in stunned silence. Rose stands frozen by the door. He reaches out, his fingers impossibly gentle, and brushes a thumb over the velvety texture of a petal. He does not pluck it. He does not crush it. He touches it as one might touch a holy relic. He turns to face the dumbstruck audience. For months I have watched this palace suffocate under the weight of its own glorious decay. We pride ourselves on our permanence, on our victory over the fleeting nature of life. We have been fools. This is not weakness. This is not contamination. This is strength. The kind of strength none of you have ever known. It is the courage to bloom in the dark, the will to create beauty in a world of cold stone. My queen brought this strength to my kingdom, and you would have me punish her for it? You would have me crush it, as a child crushes a flower, out of fear of what he does not understand. The echo of his own words from that terrible night hangs in the air. There will be no more talk of weakness. The queen's pursuits are the king's pursuits. Her sanctuary is under my personal protection. If any of you so much as breathes a word against her, or this place, you will find that my reign is not nearly as tolerant as you have become accustomed to believing. Now leave, all of you. They flee. There is no other word for it. They turn and melt back into the darkness, Marcus's face a mask of ruin. In moments, they are gone. And then there are two. Rose and Casimir, alone in the small, warm, breathing space. The silence that falls is not cold or empty. It is living, thick with the scent of earth and unspoken words. Casimir stands by the rose, his back to her. His shoulders are tense. He has not looked at her since the nobles fled. Rose's heart, which had been frantic against her ribs, slowly quiets. She still holds the trowel, its wooden handle slick in her palm. He defended it. He called it strength. He finally turns, his movement slow, hesitant. His twilight eyes are unreadable, but the sharp, cruel mask of the king is gone. In its place is stark, ancient weariness. The flower I crushed, the sun petal, it was gold. Rose can only nod, her throat too tight. I remember thinking it was the color of the sun in a world that had forgotten the sun. My actions in the hall, there is no excuse for them. There is an explanation: politics, fear, the preservation of power. But there is no excuse. The cruelty was mine alone. He takes a half step toward her, then stops, as if approaching something fragile. Why did you defend me tonight? Because I was wrong. The admission is simple, unadorned. Because watching you tend to this impossible thing, I understood what you said that day. Hope is not dependent on the sun. I have lived for 800 years, Rose. I have commanded legions and built empires of stone, but I have never once created a single living thing. I have only endured. That is not strength. It is stagnation. What you do here, this is strength. She looks at the rose, its delicate pink petals soft against the gloom. She sets the trowel down on a wooden bench. She does not move toward him. She simply stands her ground. You humiliated me. The words are not an accusation, but a stone she needs to lay between them. You took the memory of my home and made it a joke for your court. I did, and I would give a decade of my existence to take back that moment, but I cannot. Time only moves forward. All I can do is ask if you would be willing to start from this moment, here. His hands hang empty at his sides, not clenched in power, but open with desperate vulnerability. Rose does not answer with words. Instead, she turns to the rose bush. She reaches out and gently touches one of the thorns near the base of a blossom. It is sharp, a reminder that beauty and pain grow from the same stem. Then she looks back at him. The festival of first light isn't about calling back the sun. It's about enduring the darkness together. It's a promise that even after the longest night, there is still the possibility of a dawn. We light candles and hang evergreens not to banish the night, but to make a space for ourselves within it. A space for warmth and stories and light of our own making. He listens as if her words are water and he is dying of thirst. He takes a slow step closer, then another, until he is standing beside her, their shoulders almost touching. He does not look at the rose now, he looks only at her. The silence returns, but it is a shared silence now, a quiet space they occupy together. But Rose is not finished. The question that has burned in her for 2 weeks finally finds voice. I need to understand. When you crushed that flower, when you mocked what I had made, was it truly necessary, or was it simply easier? The question hangs in the warm air. Casimir does not look away. You want the truth. I deserve it. You do. The truth is that it was both, and neither excuse is sufficient. He turns fully toward her, his ancient eyes meeting hers with unflinching honesty. Marcus leads a faction that controls half our military resources. 3 months before you arrived, they attempted a coup. I put it down, but barely. The human treaty is the only thing preventing a 3-way civil war between vampire factions. Your people control the daylight lands, the fertile soil we cannot reach. My people control the night territories, the mineral resources and mountain passes you need. The marriage was meant to prevent a war that would devastate both kingdoms. But Marcus and his followers see your humanity as proof that I am weakening, that I am compromised. They have been searching for any excuse to claim I am unfit to rule. When I saw those garlands, I knew, politically, what it looked like. A human queen bringing her mortal traditions into the heart of our power, Marcus testing me in front of the entire court. If I had defended your work, if I had legitimized it, he would have used it as proof that you had corrupted my judgment. He would have fractured the fragile peace we bought with our marriage. There would have been open rebellion within days. He pauses, his jaw tight. So I made a calculation. A small, controlled cruelty to prevent a larger conflict. I chose the kingdom over you. I chose political survival over your heart. And I told myself it was the right choice, the only choice, because I am the king, and the kingdom must come first. And now? Do you still believe it was the right choice? No, because I was operating from a place of fear, not strength. I was so afraid of appearing weak that I became weak. A true king does not placate his enemies. He leads. He takes risks for what is right, not what is safe. I could have defended you. I could have drawn that line in the stone 2 weeks ago and dared Marcus to cross it. It would have been a risk, a significant one. But it would have been the act of a king who believes in something beyond mere survival. Instead, I chose the path of a politician. I sacrificed you to maintain a peace that was already hollow. And the cost was not just your pain, it was my own integrity. I have spent 2 weeks watching you become a ghost, knowing I created that emptiness. I have spent 2 weeks hating myself for choosing so poorly. The silence that follows is heavy with the weight of his confession. Rose looks at him, truly looks at him, and sees not the ancient, powerful king, but a man who made a terrible choice and is drowning in its consequences. You say you chose the kingdom over me, but what kind of kingdom are you preserving, Casimir? One where strength means crushing hope? Where unity requires cruelty? Where the king rules through fear of his own court? The question lands like a blade. You are right. I have been asking the wrong question. The question is not whether I can afford to defend you. The question is whether I can afford not to. What kind of king am I if I cannot protect the person who is supposed to be my partner? What kind of kingdom am I building if it requires me to destroy the only person in 800 years who has made me feel something other than cold? His voice drops to barely a whisper. When I crushed that flower, I saw your face. I saw the hope die in your eyes. And in that moment, I understood that I had just committed the greatest failure of my reign. Not because it was politically unwise, but because it was morally bankrupt. I am a king. I wield power over life and death. And I used that power to break you for the approval of men I do not even respect. There is no version of that story where I am not the villain. Then why? Why didn't you come to me that night? Why did you let 2 weeks pass? Because I am a coward. Not politically. Politically, I have always been willing to take risks. But emotionally, I am 800 years old, and I have not apologized to anyone in perhaps 600 of those years. I did not know how. I did not know if you would even let me through the door. So I tried to fix it the only way I knew how. With gifts. With gestures. With everything except the one thing you actually needed, which was for me to stand in front of you and say that I was wrong, that I hurt you, and that I am profoundly sorry. He takes a breath. So I am saying it now. I was wrong. I hurt you. I chose poorly. And I am sorrier than I have words to express. You asked me if it was necessary or if it was easier. The truth is that I convinced myself it was necessary because it was easier. Easier than risking Marcus's rebellion. Easier than being the king I should be instead of the king I have always been. Easier than admitting that somewhere in the last 6 months, you stopped being a political asset and became the person I most wanted to defend, and I was terrified of what that meant. Rose feels something crack inside her chest. Not break, but crack. Like ice beginning to thaw. She sees him now, not as the king who betrayed her, but as a man who has lived so long in the dark that he has forgotten how to reach for the light. You're right. You were a coward. You are a coward. You chose your court over me. You chose their approval over my dignity. And you did it while I was standing there, hoping you would choose differently. He flinches but does not look away. But you came here tonight. You stood in front of them again and chose differently. That doesn't erase what you did. It doesn't heal what you broke. But it is a beginning. What would it take? For you to trust me again? I don't know if I can trust you again. Not the way I did before. Because now I know what you're capable of when you're afraid. Now I know that when you feel threatened, you will choose your crown over my heart. And I don't know if I can live with that. The words hit him like a physical blow. The Festival of First Light is about making a choice. Every year, in the darkest part of winter, my people choose to believe that the sun will return. They choose to light candles even though the night is overwhelming. They choose hope even when hope seems foolish. It is a choice, Casimir, and it is a choice they make together. You made your choice 2 weeks ago. You chose safety. You chose politics. You chose the kingdom. And I understand why. I even understand that you believed it was necessary. But understanding is not the same as forgiving. And forgiving is not the same as trusting. Then what do you need from me? I need to know that if this happens again, if Marcus or someone like him tests you again, you will choose differently. I need to know that I am not just an asset you will sacrifice when it becomes politically convenient. I need to know that you are capable of being the king you described, the one who takes risks for what is right, the one who leads instead of placates. Because if you are not that king, then I am just a beautiful ornament in a very cold palace. And I cannot live like that. I will not. The ultimatum hangs between them. Casimir looks at her, and for the first time in 800 years, he feels genuinely afraid. not of rebellion or war or political maneuvering. Afraid of losing her. Afraid that he has already lost her and is only now realizing it. I cannot promise that I will always choose correctly. I cannot promise that I will not make mistakes, or that I will not sometimes fail you. But I can promise that I will try. I can promise that I will not make the same mistake again. I can promise that from this moment forward, when I am faced with a choice between you and my court, I will remember this conversation. I will remember the look on your face when that flower turned to dust. And I will choose you. Not because it is politically wise, but because it is right. Because you are right. A kingdom built on fear and cruelty is not worth preserving. And a crown that requires me to destroy the people I care about is not worth wearing. Rose studies his face in the soft light of the glass house. She sees the sincerity there, but also the uncertainty. He means what he is saying, but meaning it and doing it are different things. Words are easy in the dark, in private. Show me in the light. Come here tomorrow at noon when the sun is highest behind the horizon, when the light is brightest. When the servants are working in the gardens and the courtiers are watching. Tend this rose with me where people can see. Bring soil under your perfect fingernails. Let them see their king kneeling in the dirt beside his human queen. Then I will know you mean what you say. Then I will know this is real. It is a test, and they both know it. A public declaration that will be seen as weakness by some, as madness by others. It is everything he was trying to avoid 2 weeks ago. It is a risk. He looks at her, at the fierce, quiet strength in her eyes, and realizes that she is offering him something precious, a chance. Not forgiveness, not yet, but the possibility of it, the hope of it. He could refuse. He could explain, again, the political ramifications. He could ask for something smaller, something private, something safe. But he knows, with sudden, clarifying certainty, that if he does, he will lose her forever. Some moments demand courage. Some moments demand that you choose the person over the crown. This is that moment. I will be here at noon, with soil and water and whatever else you need. And I will stay as long as you ask me to stay. The words are a vow. Rose nods slowly. It is not acceptance, not yet, but it is acknowledgement. It is the first tentative step toward something that might, eventually, resemble forgiveness. The Festival of First Light has another tradition. At the end of the longest night, just before dawn, everyone speaks a hope aloud. Something they want for the coming year. Something they choose to believe in, even though believing is dangerous. What is your hope, Rose? She looks at the winter rose, its delicate petals glowing soft pink in the lamplight. Then she looks at him. My hope is that you become the king you could be instead of the king you have been. My hope is that I can learn to trust you again. My hope is that this, what we are doing right now, talking in the dark and being honest about pain, is the beginning of something real. Not a political arrangement, not a treaty written in marriage vows, but a partnership. A choice we both make every day to tend to something fragile and keep it alive. The words settle between them like a promise. Casimir feels the weight of them, the gift and the burden, both. And if I fail, if I disappoint you again, then I will leave. Not because I want to, but because I have to. Because I cannot spend my life waiting for you to choose me. I cannot be the thing you sacrifice every time you feel threatened. I deserve more than that. And if you cannot give me more than that, then I will go back to my homeland and you will rule your kingdom alone, as you have for 800 years. That is the truth. That is the choice in front of you. The ultimatum is clear: stay and risk everything, or stay and lose everything. There is no middle ground, no safe political calculation, just a choice: love or crown, her or the kingdom he has built on fear. He looks at her standing in her small sanctuary, surrounded by earth and life and the impossible pink blossoms of hope. And he realizes that she is not asking him to choose between her and his kingdom. She is asking him to choose what kind of kingdom he wants: one built on fear or one built on something worth defending. The answer, when it comes, is surprisingly simple. Then I will not fail. Or if I do, I will fail forward, toward you, not away. I will be here tomorrow at noon, and the day after, and the day after that, for as long as you will have me. I am choosing you, Rose, not because it is easy or safe or politically wise, but because 800 years is a long time to live in the dark, and you are the first light I have seen in longer than I can remember. The words hang in the air between them, a promise and a prayer. Rose does not move toward him, not yet. The distance between them is still a chasm, still a wound. But it is a chasm that can be crossed, step by step, day by day, choice by choice. She reaches down and picks up the trowel. She hands it to him. His cool fingers brush against her warm ones as he takes it. It is the first time they have touched in 2 weeks. The contact is brief, but it is a beginning. Tomorrow then, at noon, we start with the soil. Tomorrow, at noon. He does not leave immediately. He stands there in the warm, green-scented space, holding the trowel like it is a scepter, like it is the most important thing he has ever been given. And perhaps it is. Outside, the kingdom of eternal night waits. The court with its politics and power games, Marcus and his simmering rebellion, Duke Anton and his calculating assessment. All the weight of 800 years of rule. But here, in this small glass house, there is only the soft sound of their breathing, the faint rustle of rose leaves, and the impossible, fragile hope that something broken can be tended back to life. Rose watches him, this ancient king holding a gardening tool like he is holding the future. She does not know if he will keep his promise. She does not know if she can ever fully trust him again. But she knows that he is trying. And perhaps, in a kingdom of eternal darkness, trying is its own kind of light. The Festival of First Light. Tell me about it. Not just the tradition, but what it meant to you. I want to understand. And so she does. Standing in the warm, quiet space, with the winter rose blooming between them, Rose tells him stories of her homeland. Of the mountain pass where the first light would break through. Of the collective gasp of her people as the sun returned. Of the way her father would lift her onto his shoulders so she could see it first. Of the songs they sang and the food they shared, and the way, for one day, even the poorest family felt rich in light. Casimir listens. He does not interrupt. He does not offer political analysis or strategic concerns. He simply listens, and in the listening, he begins to understand what he destroyed, and what, perhaps, he might still have a chance to rebuild. When she finishes, her voice is soft and sad and hopeful all at once. He looks at her, and his ancient eyes are bright with something that might be tears, if creatures like him could cry. Thank you, for telling me, for giving me a chance I do not deserve, for still being here when you could have left weeks ago. I stayed because I am stubborn, and because somewhere beneath all the pain and the anger, I still believed that the man who knelt beside me in my chambers and looked at my work with curiosity instead of contempt was real. I need him to be real, Casimir, because if he is not, if that was just another mask you wear, then there is no point to any of this. He is real. I have spent 800 years being the other version, the cold one, the calculating one, the one who makes hard choices and lives with the consequences without regret. I am tired of being him. I am ready to try being someone else, someone better. I do not know if I can succeed, but I am willing to try, for you, and perhaps, eventually, for myself. The silence that follows is not empty. It is full of possibilities, of potential futures that branch out from this single moment. Rose could send him away. She could tell him it is too little, too late. She could protect her heart behind walls of ice and never risk the pain again. Or she could take the risk. She could choose hope over safety, possibility over certainty. She could give him the chance he is asking for, and see if he is capable of change. It is a choice only she can make, and in the warm, green space of the glass house, surrounded by the impossible beauty of a rose that blooms in the dark, she makes it. Tomorrow at noon, don't be late. It is not forgiveness, not yet. But it is permission. Permission to try. Permission to prove himself. Permission to become the king he claims he wants to be. Casimir nods, a single solemn movement. He sets the trowel down gently on the bench. He looks at the rose one more time, memorizing it, memorizing this moment. Then he looks at her. I will not be late. I promise you that. And then he leaves, slipping out into the cold, dark night, carrying with him the scent of earth and roses and the fragile, precious gift of a second chance. Rose remains in the glass house. She sits on the bench and looks at her rose, at the 3 perfect pink blossoms that have survived against all odds. She touches one gently, feeling the velvet softness of the petal. Tomorrow he will come, or he will not. Tomorrow he will make his choice public, or he will find another excuse, another political calculation, another reason why it is too dangerous. She does not know which it will be, but tonight, for the first time in 2 weeks, she feels something other than cold emptiness. She feels hope. Fragile, foolish, dangerous hope. And in a kingdom of eternal night, hope is the most radical act of all. The next day arrives gray and cold. Noon in the Onyx Keep is not marked by the sun's zenith, but by the subtlest brightening of the perpetual twilight, a shift in the quality of the dim light that filters down from the cloud-covered sky. It is the brightest the kingdom ever gets. Rose arrives at the glass house early. She has brought fresh soil, a watering can, pruning shears. She does not know if he will come. She tells herself she is prepared for his absence, that she has already begun to make peace with it. She tells herself that hope is a choice, not a guarantee. But her hands shake slightly as she arranges the tools. The garden beyond the glass house is visible from the palace. She chose this time specifically. The servants will be out tending to the winter vegetables in the covered beds. The courtiers often take their exercise walks through this part of the grounds just after midday. If he comes, he will be seen. If he does not, his absence will also be noted. Either way, a message will be sent. The light shifts. Noon. Rose takes a breath and begins to work, her hands in the soil, her focus on the rose. If he does not come, she will at least have this, her sanctuary, her choice, her small, stubborn rebellion. She hears footsteps on the path outside. She does not look up. It could be anyone, a servant, a curious courtier. But then the door opens and she knows, without looking, that it is him. She can feel his presence the way she has learned to feel the shifts in the air before a storm. I brought more soil, and I was not certain what kind of water roses prefer, so I brought both rainwater and well water. I am told there is a difference. Rose looks up. He is there, standing in the doorway of the glass house, holding 2 buckets of water. He is not dressed for court. He wears simple, dark clothing, practical and plain. His perfect hands, The ones that crushed a flower 2 weeks ago are empty of rings and ready for work. Behind him, through the glass, she can see figures on the garden path. Servants have stopped their work. A group of courtiers has paused mid-conversation. They are watching. He knows they are watching. He came anyway. Rainwater is better. It is softer, less harsh. She gestures to the bench beside her. He enters fully, closing the door behind him, but not before one last visible moment where the court can see him clearly. He sets the buckets down and kneels beside her in the soil. His expensive dark trousers press into the damp earth. He does not hesitate. He does not flinch. He simply kneels and waits for instruction. The soil around the base needs to be loosened, carefully. The roots are delicate. He takes the small trowel she offers him and begins to work. His movements are tentative at first, uncertain. He has never done this before. It shows. But he is trying, and there is something deeply vulnerable in watching an 800-year-old king struggle with the basics of gardening. They work in silence for a while. The only sounds are the soft scrape of tools against soil, the occasional rustle of leaves, the distant murmur of voices from the garden beyond. Those voices are growing. More people are stopping. More people are watching. Rose glances up and sees Lady Seraphina standing at the edge of the garden, her expression one of pure shock. Lord Marcus is there too, his face dark with impotent rage. Duke Anton stands slightly apart, his sharp eyes taking in every detail. The king is kneeling in the dirt beside his human queen, tending to a flower, in full view of the court. It is a deliberate, public statement. It is political suicide or political genius, depending on how one looks at it. But more than that, it is a choice. He is keeping his promise. You are doing well. The rose is stronger than it looks. You do not have to be quite so careful. I do not wish to damage it. It has survived so much already. It seems cruel to harm it through carelessness now. There is a weight to his words that has nothing to do with the rose. Rose hears it. She understands. They continue to work. Time passes. The light shifts again, beginning its slow fade back toward deeper twilight. Still he stays. His hands, so pale and perfect, are now stained with dark earth. There is a smudge of soil on his cheek. He looks more human than she has ever seen him. And perhaps that is the point. Perhaps that is what he is trying to show her, and them. That he is willing to be something other than the untouchable, inhuman king. That he is willing to kneel. That he is willing to get his hands dirty. For her. Finally, the work is done. The rose has been tended, the soil refreshed, the water given. The 3 pink blossoms seem brighter somehow, more vibrant against the dark thorns. Rose sits back on her heels, surveying their work. Casimir does the same. They are both streaked with soil, both slightly disheveled, and for the first time in weeks, when she looks at him, Rose does not see the king who betrayed her. She sees the man who is trying, desperately, to make amends. Thank you for coming. Thank you for letting me. The words are simple, but they carry the weight of the promise kept, the choice made, the risk taken. Outside, the courtiers have begun to disperse, carrying with them the story of what they have seen. The king kneeling in the dirt. The king tending to his queen's garden. The king choosing her, publicly, in a way that cannot be undone or explained away. Lord Marcus will rage. Lady Seraphina will whisper. Duke Anton will calculate. But none of it matters as much as this moment, here, in the warm green space where 2 people are learning, slowly, painfully, to trust each other again. Will you come back tomorrow? Every day, if you will have me. Not every day. I am not ready for that. But perhaps twice a week? We can tend the rose together. We can talk. We can see if what you say is true. If you are capable of being the king you described. That is more than fair. That is more than I have any right to ask. She looks at him, at the soil on his hands, and the uncertainty in his ancient eyes. I do not forgive you yet, Casimir. I want to be clear about that. What you did still hurts. The memory of that flower turning to dust still wakes me at night. I do not know if I will ever fully trust you the way I did before. But I am willing to try. I am willing to see if you can keep your promises. I am willing to give you time to prove that this is real. I will prove it, however long it takes, whatever it requires. I will prove it to you. She nods slowly. It is not a happy ending. It is barely a beginning, but it is honest. And in a kingdom built on shadows and political machinations, honesty is its own kind of light. They stand together, brushing the soil from their clothes. Rose picks up the watering can. Casimir gathers the tools. They move around each other with careful courtesy, two people learning the geography of each other's pain and hope. Before they leave the glass house, Rose pauses. She looks at him one more time. The festival of first light is in 4 months. If we are still doing this then, if we are still tending this rose together, I would like to try again. To bring the festival to the great hall. To hang the garlands and light the candles. But this time, I will not do it alone. This time, if you stand beside me, if you help me make that light, then perhaps it will be strong enough to survive. Perhaps it will be ours, instead of just mine. The offer hangs in the air, fragile and profound. 4 months. A trial period. A test of his commitment. A hope for something neither of them can quite name yet. 4 months. I will be there. I will stand beside you. And this time, I will not let anyone, including myself, extinguish it. She smiles then, small and sad and hopeful all at once. It is the first real smile she has given him since the night of the humiliation. It does not erase the pain, but it is a crack in the ice. A place where light can begin to seep through. Then we have something to work toward. Come, we should go before we give the court any more to talk about today. They leave the glass house together, stepping out into the cold, gray light of the Onyx Keep's noon. The courtiers who remain in the garden watch them pass, some with disapproval, some with curiosity, some with calculation. Casimir does not look at them. He walks beside Rose, close but not touching. A king who has just made a choice that will define the rest of his reign. Whether that choice is wisdom or folly remains to be seen. But for the first time in 800 years, he has chosen something other than power. He has chosen hope. He has chosen her. They part ways at the entrance to the palace proper. He to his duties, she to hers. But as they separate, Rose looks back once. He is standing in the doorway, watching her go, the soil still on his hands, the promise still fresh between them. And in that moment, she allows herself to believe. Not that everything is fixed, not that the pain is gone, but that perhaps, in time, with patience and work, and the stubborn courage to keep tending to fragile things, something real can grow from the ruins of what was broken. In a kingdom of eternal darkness, that belief is its own kind of festival, its own return of the light. And as Rose walks away, she carries it with her, like a candle cupped in her hands. Small, flickering, but burning. In the Onyx Keep, where night is eternal and the sun is a half-forgotten myth, 2 people have made a choice. Not to forget the pain, not to pretend it never happened, but to tend to hope together, day by day, choice by choice, like a winter rose that blooms in the dark. It is not an ending, it is a beginning, and sometimes that is enough.